Joining us now is Doug Ford, the Premier of Canada's most populous territory, Ontario. And Premier Ford, as we mentioned, President Trump is now saying he is enacting a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum from Canada, which will go into effect tomorrow in response to your actions. What's your reaction?
Well, Anna, first of all, thank you for having me on. I start every interview with saying we love Americans. I love Americans, spent 20 years of my life there. And I know Canadians love Americans and vice versa. In saying that, we will not back down. We will be relentless. I apologize to the American people that President Trump decided to have an unprovoked attack on our country, on families, on jobs, and it's unacceptable. Let's work together. Let's get to the table if he has issues, and let's sort this out. You see the market tumbling. Consumer confidence is down. And if he continues on with this, assembly plants in Michigan will shut down and around the country, whoever makes autos, and as well as businesses. They're going to hurt. And these pensions, when the market goes down, it's going to affect people's pensions. So I'm not too sure why he continues to attack his closest friends and allies. But we need the American people to speak up. We need those CEOs to actually get a backbone and stand in front of them and tell them this is going to be a disaster. It's mass chaos right now. That's what we need.
Well, he'll have a chance to hear from those CEOs today, as we just mentioned. If you're talking de-escalation at this point, what would it take for you to remove that surcharge on the electricity coming into the U.S. from Canada?
Well, doubling the tariff on aluminum, that the U.S. only can manufacture 16% aluminum that they need. The balance, for the most part, comes from Quebec, over 65%. It's going to hurt your manufacturing. You need the aluminum. You need our high-grade nickel. And I want to send more high-grade nickel. You need our electricity. You need the 4.3 million barrels of oil that gets shipped down. I want to make sure we build an AMCAN fortress, the two greatest countries in the world. Fighting like this does not make sense. But I will respond appropriately on the electricity. Stay tuned.
So what does that look like? What are the potential responses?
Well, we'll see. I'll talk to the team and we'll make an appropriate response to President Trump. Again, I stress this is not the American people. Canadians know it. And if we go into a recession, it's self-made by one person. It's called President Trump's recession, which shouldn't be this way. We should be booming, both countries right now.
Have you and your team talked with President Trump or members of the White House since the beginning of all of the tariff back and forth, specifically since you had implemented this 25% surcharge on electricity coming into New York, Minnesota, and Michigan?
I've talked to the three governors. I've also talked to Secretary Lutnick and President Trump. You like the guy, you don't like him, they understand. They're business people. And for this to be unrolling and putting the whole country and Canada into a potential recession over what? He should be focusing on China. He should not be focusing on his closest neighbor and ally.
If you could talk to President Trump right now, what would you say?
Stop the chaos. It's hurting American families. It's hurting Canadian families. There's uncertainty, and the markets dislike uncertainty. So do business, so do investors, so do people. They want to know that they're going to have a job, and we're going to have a booming economy. He's done the total opposite. He ran on a mandate of creating jobs, lowering inflation, and it's backfired on him. And he has to step up and change course. Inflation is happening right across the country, and the unpredictability that he's put to the markets are speaking. People will be speaking, and businesses will be speaking as well.
President Trump has cited fentanyl crossing the border as a big reason for the tariffs. Of course, he's also repeatedly called for Canada to become America's 51st state. What's your sense of what this is really all about? Why do you think President Trump is doing this?
Well, he believes there's an unfair trade deal that he created. I remember his words, the greatest deal ever. I guess it's not the greatest deal to him anymore, but let's resolve it. Let's sit down across the table and let's work this out, because all it's going to do is hurt American families. It's going to hurt Canadian families. And it's not just American and Canadian. It's going to affect the whole world. Well, China is ramping up for the last 10 years, as we've all been sleeping, they're taking over the critical mineral sector in the entire world. But there's one area that has more critical minerals than anywhere in the world. That's Ontario.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And we're following the breaking news. President Trump saying he is now doubling the tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel as markets reel for a second day in a row. The Dow Jones down now. Take a look at this. You see the Dow is way down, getting close to 600 points now, 622 points down right now, 622. It's all fueled by the enormous uncertainty over the president's trade war. Joining us now, CNN White House reporter Elena Treen. Elena is joining us, and CNN business and politics correspondent Vanessa Yurkevich is in New York. She's joining us as well. Elena, let me start with you. What is the White House saying, first of all, about this latest escalation in tariffs involving our closest neighbor and good friend, Canada?
Well, Wolf, we really saw the president just moments ago with this post on social media really just ramp up some of that uncertainty and threats to Canada. I note as well that this comes just days after Canada selected a new leader for the Liberal Party. We are going to see them have a new prime minister soon, someone who has said that he wants to continue what Justin Trudeau has been doing. But I want to get into what the president said. He said that in response to the Premier of Ontario placing a 25% tariff on electricity in certain states, that he is going to be responding, as you mentioned, with increasing tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25% to 50%. He also argued that those are going to go into effect starting tomorrow morning. He also said he would soon be declaring a national emergency on electricity within the threatened area. And he went on to say that if he does not like what Canada does, if he does not like how they respond, he will significantly increase tariffs on automakers and cars coming into the United States from Canada. And he added as well, he said this, which I found very notable, quote, "The only thing that makes sense is for Canada to become our cherished 51st state," just continuing on with that taunt. But I think the big picture here, Wolf, is that we have seen so much uncertainty. The market had its worst day yesterday that it has had all year. A lot of people wanting to get some reassurance from the president and the White House. This is not doing that. This is only creating far more uncertainty at a time when people are very concerned about the state of the economy.
And the markets are not good so far today in the first couple hours or so since it's open. The Dow Jones, as you can see, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, down 570 points already. Elena, stand by. I want to bring in Vanessa. Vanessa, how else is Wall Street responding this morning? Yesterday was very, very bad. Today looks pretty bad as well.
Yeah, markets open mixed this morning, kind of waiting to see what the president was going to say. We got that answer at 10 a.m. when the president posted on Truth Social that he would be doubling tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. And you see now markets reacting to that news, falling even further. There's a big question here about whether or not we're pointing towards a recession. President Trump said that he could not rule one out, and Goldman Sachs has just increased their recession forecast to 20% from 15%. But just to reassure folks at home, we are not in recession territory just yet. And Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, said that the economy is actually in a good place right now. But there are flashing warning signs right now. We are hearing from major retailers about what the outlook is looking like for consumers for this year. Delta slashing its forecast by about half, and also Kohl's saying that this is going to be a turbulent 2025 for consumers, and you see those stocks reacting right there. Also in the auto industry, President Trump in his post said that he is going to go ahead on April 2nd and put tariffs on any autos coming into the U.S. But the problem is Canadian auto parts and cars are very much intertwined with U.S. manufacturing. Those stocks, GM, Ford, and Stellantis, the big three here in the U.S., are also down this morning on that news, Wolf.
They certainly are. How is Canada so far reacting, Vanessa?
Well, Canada has said that they want to come to the negotiating table and try to work something out. But we heard just moments ago from Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, who reacted to Trump's Truth Social post this morning. Take a listen to what he said.
I apologize to the American people that President Trump decided to have an unprovoked attack on our country. on families, on jobs, and it's unacceptable. I'll talk to the team and we'll make an appropriate response to President Trump. Again, I stress, this is not the American people. Canadians know it. And if we go into a recession, it's self-made by one person. It's called President Trump's recession, which shouldn't be this way. We should be booming both countries right now.
Now, Wolf, we have been reporting a lot on the trade war with Canada, Mexico, and China, but this is really shaping up to be a global trade war. You heard from the premier right there saying that the recession that could be coming would be self-inflicted. We also heard the same thing from the former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, who said that would also be self-inflicted. Now, the markets this morning have been reacting at every step of the way along this news cycle. It'll be interesting to see if we get any readout from the 5 p.m. business roundtable that the president is holding later today, and whether or not business leaders can try to pull back President Trump from some of these more rash tariff decisions, of course, rattling markets and American consumers who are looking for some certainty right now, Wolf.
We'll see what happens, and we'll monitor what the president has to say later today. He was silent on all of this yesterday. Vanessa Yurkevich and Elena Treen reporting for us, to both of you. Thank you.
It's Brianne, CNN's Maddie again with a look at the markets. Quite a change for Trump 2.0. Going back, it wasn't so long ago in his first term where he was touting the market's climbs. Now he seems to be ignoring them, suggesting he doesn't even pay attention, though those around him all say he watches closely. So what's going on, Matt?
Well, Bianna and Zane, as you guys know, CEOs and investors, they really crave stability and clarity, not chaos. Unfortunately, though, they're getting more and more chaos really by the day. You would have thought that after yesterday's
Trump's trade war with Canada is absolute madness. Can you believe this guy is attacking our closest ally and trading partner over nonsense? What we're seeing isn't strategic policy. It's just chaos created by one man's ego. The markets are tanking, consumer confidence is plummeting, and American manufacturers who depend on Canadian aluminum and steel are panicking. This isn't America first. It's America isolated and economically self-harmed. Trump claimed he'd create jobs and lower inflation, but instead he's triggering what Doug Ford correctly called Trump's recession. The economic uncertainty he's creating is hurting working families on both sides of the border. Show your support by liking this video and subscribing. Have you noticed how Canada isn't backing down? Good for them. Premier Ford is absolutely right that Canadians love Americans, but they won't be bullied by this administration. They're facing this aggression with resolve and appropriate countermeasures. Meanwhile, Trump's bizarre comment about Canada becoming our cherished 51st state shows how disconnected he is from reality. He's treating international relations like a real estate deal, but countries don't work that way. The damage Trump is doing to our relationship with Canada could take decades to repair. And for what? While he's busy antagonizing our friends, China continues expanding its influence over critical minerals and global trade. What's happening right now is a perfect example of Trump's approach to everything. Create a crisis where none existed, blame others, escalate when challenged, and ignore the harm to everyday Americans. We need those CEOs meeting with him today to find some backbone and tell him straight. This trade war is economic suicide. Our auto industry is deeply integrated with Canada's. You can't just slap tariffs on them without hurting Michigan, Minnesota, and other manufacturing states. The sad reality is that Trump doesn't care about American workers or businesses. This is all about his personal grudges and impulses. We deserve better than a president who tanks our economy to satisfy his ego. Do you love our content? Show some love by liking and subscribing to our channel.